Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you, Dennis. It is a pleasure to be on your show this evening and share this space with you.
Thank you. Our guest, Attorney Mmonbeydo Nadine Joah. She's here as our guest, and we're going to be discussing some of the legal issues or the challenges that women face in the justice system in Liberia. Once again, I want to say welcome, Mmonbeydo, and our viewers from across the globe. Again, this is Focus on Liberia. We are glad to have you. By the way,
Thank you.
Joah is a women's rights activist, a feminist, an educator, using public service scholar with years of experience as gender advocate, and has built a reputation as one of the most powerful voices for advocacy in women's rights. That was a quote from Front Page Africa. Mmonbeydo has been steadfast in lobbying for change of law and policies in Liberia, especially in the domestic violence law, which finally passed in 2019. He has been committed as a campaigner, and in the last few years, he has become a leader in women's movement, playing an active role in the We Are One campaign. She holds a bachelor's degree in political science with minor in sociology, a certificate in elections, dispute resolution, and communication. She's a graduate of the Louis Arthur Graham School of Law and former representative candidate for aspirant. Currently, she's the president of the Network of Peace and Security Women in ECOWAS country, that's the NOPSECO. Again, Nadine, we want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
First off, I understand you are also the legal counsel or the lawyer for Advocacy, who is pursuing a case, post-election case, and you are also raising funds for two ladies who also alleged who have some election disputes. Let's talk a little bit about that before we begin our topic for today.
Yes, in my role as executive director of a women's organization, we have been raising funds for two women, Boto Kane and Madam Edith Bufluwe. As you can recall, there was a lady in Bapolu who women's rights group had to rescue when the country devil came out, and there was a skirmish there. State security forces had to go in, and one woman was allegedly raped, and several people were beaten. She passed through the dense forest, traumatized, until women groups met her and brought her to town and kept her at a safe location. Now, this opposing candidate who benefited from the elections, because I say he's benefited because he won the election in Papolu, with a margin of 217 votes to vote 181, at least at the 4 polling places, has brought a complaint of elections violence against her. The hearing officer dismissed the case because her team raised the issue of jurisdiction, that NEC had no jurisdiction over these matters because of its precedent, a Supreme Court precedent in 2009 in the Labour Party versus NEC case, where the court decided that administrative agencies had no jurisdiction over criminal matters, and it would deprive the courts of their constitutional duty. So the court decided that NEC and other agencies like it have no jurisdiction over criminal matters. The hearing officer dismissed the case. The Board of Commissioners, by a margin of 4 majority, 3 minority, decided that NEC had a duty to conduct preliminary hearing and forward the case to the appropriate agency. So, to appeal to the Supreme Court, there's a requirement that you have to pay an appeal fee of $3,000 because other lawyers are working on the case and they will need other, photographic materials and other stuff associated with legal fees. We decided to raise additional $2,000 for the legal team. So that's $5,000. The same $5,000 will apply to Madam Edith Gonglu. So that's why we're raising $10,000 in 3 days, and we met our target.
Oh, wow. So in order to appeal the case, so that the case go to the Supreme Court, you have to pay $3,000.
Yes, that's the requirement of the new elections law.
Is that the same with any other case that could go to the Supreme Court? You have to pay, or it's just with election matters?
Well, you have to pay an appeal fee, yes, but for the elections law, it is specified there that for president, at least you pay 5,000, for senator 3,000, and representative, I can give you a figure now, but the figure is there. You have to pay. I think this is to prevent
Frivolous
just
case.
anyone just appealing to the Supreme Court in the cases that has substantial evidence or weight, or where the appellants feel it very necessary to appeal to the Supreme Court. There are pros and cons for this particular
Right.
component of the new elections law, but for now, this is the requirement to appeal to the Supreme Court. You definitely have to pay that fee.
Right. I mean, and I'm not trying to challenge that, but I don't see how it discourages frivolous cases from going there, right? It means only the rich will be able to to appeal their cases, and the poor will not be able to. So I wonder why, but that's not why we are here.
Mhm.
Let's say, so why are you pursuing this for female? Is it because they're females, or you have done it for any other person who feel that they needed to be heard?
Well, during the elections, my organization works for women and women who are indigent. During the elections, we monitored the elections. We had an accountability room. They passed accountability rooms, and we issued weekly updates. So it was during this time that we noticed that this was happening. The first we ever heard of this case was when the NEC announced that the ballot box had been seized by individuals and the elections had been obstructed, and they ordered an extension of the elections. So yeah, most of the time women don't have access to justice because of economic reasons, and because our main focus is ensuring that women's rights under the law are realized. This is why we took this case. And no, I wouldn't have taken it if it was a man, but because we know there is a problem with application of the law, and unequal application of the law to both men and women, this is why we took on this case.
In the case of Madam Edith Gonglo, where is that the same issue, or did,
Edith is behind by a margin of 3,000 votes, but she is contesting the integrity of these elections. Uh, the elections procedure is such as before the ballots are open, there is a number attached to each of the boxes, and it is sealed. Before that box is open for operation, the numbers are read on the seal so that people record it and verify that it is the same numbers as the one that left the headquarters. At the close of the ballots, after counting shall have been done, another seal is placed on the ballot box, and that seal has different numbers so that if it is broken midway, those who are there as observers and those at the headquarters will be able to compare those numbers. For the case of Nimba, people were voting in ballot boxes. And so when Madam and people were denied the right to vote, the integrity of the elections was compromised. So she's alleging fraud. She alleging the integrity of the elections was compromised, and I think she has a right to bring that to the attention of the Supreme of the Elections Commission, because elections is the foundation of our democracy, and when you have a compromised elections, you're going to have trouble. And don't you forget, Denise, I would like to remind you that the 2023 elections is just around the corner. We have to make sure we put these procedures in place so that we don't have chaos tomorrow. So this is why it is important that before the 2023 elections, these cases are brought to the attention of those judicial actors, and that procedures are put in place ahead of time.
Right. So now you have met your target of raising $10,000 in 3 days. Your next step is the Supreme Court. What are these prospects?
Well, those are high priests of justice. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter of our law, and we leave it to them to look at the precedent and either reaffirm that precedent or say, okay, we remand it back to the National Elections Commission. NEC has a duty. But we know that the Supreme Court has set a precedent in this case, and we're only saying, look, Supreme Court, this is what you said first, and this is what we're asking you to do to reaffirm that you said this, and so it should apply in this case also. I would also like you to note that this is not the first time a woman has gone through such a traumatic experience. You will remember or recall that in District 13 with the candidate Cornelia Kura, there was a bloody interaction there with Honorable Jefferson Koji and I don't want to call him, but with the CDC guys. There was a very bloody scene unfolding in District 13, where Cornelia Kura team was brutalized very much. And then in District 15, the same thing happened again with Tile Ayure, where she almost got burned into a house. So violence against women in elections has been a thing for most of the past time, but with the application of laws enabling women to participate in politics, we feel now that it is becoming a phenomenon, is increasing than ever, and we have to take steps to avoid this, because if we don't, it's just going to increase in the 2023 elections. It's not only about physical, verbal attacks, but emotional, online, digital attacks have been increasing. We monitored violence against women in the last 4 elections, and we found out that it has significantly, increased, and there is a need to carry out public information or do something about it. And in the first 2 cases, next should have spontaneously taken notice of those violence that took place in those 2 elections. It did not do so, but now it has said it has a preliminary duty. Is for me, the decision of the board of commissioner is good, because now we know that you had a preliminary duty and you never took action when all of those were taking place. You never took action when the chief obstructed the elections by seizing the ballots. But now that chief should have been in detention, or he should have been investigated. But because of the impunity with which he was allowed to go with, it emboldened his subsequent community dwellers to batter the election boxes, destroy all the elections materials, and now this is being attributed to Madam Boto Kani, when she was categorically denied from entering that town. I think she is the victim here, and the Supreme Court will look into all of these facts and decide on this matter.
Right, that's really a sad situation that women continue to suffer different forms of violence, especially during elections when we are still asking for more representation of females in our government system. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing challenges of women in the Liberian legal system. My guest is Attorney Mmonbeydo Nadine Joah. She's joining us from the nation's capital, Monrovia. That's a segue to give me a synopsis of the challenges, ladies. I know you touched on one already, which is in this election matter, but let's briefly summarize in few sentences some of these challenges women face in the Liberian justice system?
Like we have been discussing in part, women have always faced legal setbacks in many ways when it comes to the justice system. Women's believability is one thing, but in our country's history, a woman was always considered the property of her husband, and therefore could not make sole decision without him. For example, spousal rape is not considered as a crime even now, even though we have the Domestic Violence Act that has been passed in 2019. When it comes to custody, the man remains the sole owner of the child, whether or not he wants to do this by domestic violence. It is only when a woman is unmarried is she the rightful person to take care of her child. She could neither inherit from her parents before 1998 because she was expected to get married and become a family member of another person's. And married women were not able to do anything without the consent of the husbands.
We're having some technical issues there with at the attorney's connection. We hope that is rectified as quickly as possible so that we can benefit from this very, very important discussion. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. What our guest was outlining some of these challenges women face, and she said, in marriage, where the woman is considered the property of the man, spousal rape is not considered a crime. It's no problem to say, you're the man wife. That's what you're supposed to do. Custody, when there is divorce, the woman has no custody of the children, is the man. And then women have no inheritance in the family property because the woman's supposed to be married in another place, so she cannot inherit. So it's only the men in that quarter. In my village, there is and that is very true. There is a name given to a woman called, Tinakon, meaning a woman has no place of settlement or in marriage, meaning the woman, you can be anywhere. So inheriting anything from your parents or from your family is a no-no. And anytime women have children in the yard, the children in that particular family are considered like strangers. So when we get our guests back, we're going to discuss that. So marriage, divorce, children custody, spousal support, and inheritance. Keep it right here on Focus on Liberia. And we're going to have our guests back to discuss this issue. We started by talking about the legal issues or the post-election issue involving Madam Boto Kane Bapolu and Madam Edith Gonglo Ware of Nimba County. The cases are going to the Supreme Court. And so Attorney Mmonbeydo, Nadine, Joah, and her group have been able to collect $10,000. That's the appeal fee for the Supreme Court so that they can take the case to the Supreme Court. I found it rather troubling that so much money is charged to take your case there. According to the reasoning behind that fee is to discourage frivolous or all kinds of cases from going to the Supreme Court. But if money is the determinant, what's going to happen is the poor will not be able to appeal, and only the rich will be able to take their cases to the Supreme Court. So if you, as we wait for our guest to reconnect, she's joining from us from Monrovia. So it's, I don't want to say it's understandable, but most of the time that's what we get when we have our guests from Monrovia, where the phone system is, the internet system is not good. And this is why at 3 o'clock, right here on Focus on Liberia, we're going to be discussing the internet access in Monrovia, the state of internet access. We're going to be talking about the national backbone or the national network infrastructure. That's the backbone. We're going to talk about the current state of internet. We'll talk about the internet and the economy. Google and Facebook have some projects. We want to see if Liberia can benefit. And then we're also going to talk about cybersecurity. Should we worry about this in Liberia? Internet has become an issue. Our guest is a lawyer. She can afford the internet charge to be able to call us, but yet, if the internet is not strong, we're going to have this kind of issue. So join us at 3 o'clock as we discuss the current state of internet in Liberia, internet access, that is. Let me check on our guest and see we are still having some issues with our internet, and as soon as she joins us, we will be able to bring you details on what we are discussing today, that is the challenges of women in the legal system. I see your people were talking about the background noise. Yes, it's understandable. It's Monrovia. There's no current, there's no electricity, so she's outside to be able to do this interview, and so we are having these kind of issues. So your comments here, Dula Care Jonathan say the adjudication of cases involving electoral irregularities should be determined by a specialized court prior to the Supreme Court finalization instead of neck hearing officers and Board of Commissioners. And you are right. I mean, I'm saying if we can have a court, I mean, go to court first. If that is not resolved, then we can go to the Supreme Court. But right after the elections, and there is no other place to hear the cases unless to the Supreme Court, that is becoming a little problem. As somebody said, the Supreme Court is becoming like the justice of peace, judging cases all over the place. The Supreme Court, of course, is the last resort, but every case going to the Supreme Court now, appellants have to pay $3,000. What kind of justice is that? But it's what we got, and we all have to work hard to make it better. We are still awaiting Attorney Mmonbeydo Joah to join us. There's internet issues there in Monrovia. I'm going to send her a message if she can call us. Maybe we can do this on the phone instead of so that's where we are now, waiting. As we wait to communicate with our guests, let's take a short commercial break, and we're going to be right back.
This is me.
Hi, I'm Bez Garlow.
Hi, I'm Nesta Vicencio.
Wow, Michael Gilman.
My name is Emily Lakukuyu.
Guys, my name is Jacinth Hedler.
My name is Yacindy Martin.
I'm Octavius Salperi.
Manuel Sabes.
My name is Wayne Yoder.
Hi, this is Bill Rogers.
Well, hello, welcome. I'm D. Curtis. You're watching This Is Me. This Is Me is a new show that is all about me. No, not really. It's all about you. But the name of the show is This Is Me. So I can't say this is you, even though the show is all about you. So that's why it's about me. Nah, not really me. This whole thing is getting confusing. Can you just repeat after me? Say, this is me.
This is me. This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
There you go. You got it. This Is Me is a show that gave personalities the unique opportunity to tell their own stories right here on This Is Me. What better person to tell your story than me? No, I mean you on This Is Me.
This is me. No one else can tell my story. No one else but me. Oh yeah. This is me. This is me. Yeah. Get to know who I am.
Listen, come closer. Let me tell you something that's secret. This is me. We're looking for sponsors. We're looking for people to partner with us. We can't do this on our own. If you'd love to sponsor, please contact us today. Like today. Huh? Today.
All right, we are still awaiting our guest to arrive. We are still awaiting our guest. We're trying to get her on the phone if that is possible so that we can be able to continue the show. This is very, very important. But in the meantime, we are talking about the challenges women face. Some of these challenges, we've heard of them. We want to hear from the lawyer's perspective on things like marriage, how we get married, how many, sometimes we say in our culture, or most of the time, the woman is considered the property of the man, and so she has no rights. Everything that's in that family belongs to the man. So if these issues are happening in Monrovia, imagine what's going on in places like Japuken, or in Petro, or in Fisibu Lofa County. Also, we're going to talk about inheritance. You're a woman in the family, even if the man, your husband dies, who takes over the property? Who takes the land? Big issue that we're going to be talking about. All right.
Hello.
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 Hello. Can you hear?
I'm sorry. These are some of the challenges of the internet. I can hear you.
All right, good. And our audience, if you can hear our guest, please give us a thumbs up if you can hear our guest. Please let us know that you are hearing our guest. Give me a comment. And so go ahead. You were giving us a summary. You can go ahead, continue from where you stop. A summary of the issues women face in our legal system in Liberia.
Yeah, so like I was trying to say, the Liberians in the society, because we have a patriarchal society, we have generally continued to frame women as second class to men, a situation that starts at every activity in Liberia, whether it is a limitation of women in decision making, which is the core issue around all other issues, because women are not represented at decision-making table. Of course, we have only 8 women at the House of Representatives, and we had one woman, which of course, and Botokane was soon join her at the House of Senate. So it stems to it flows to all other issues like women economic empowerment, because women are not empowered to make decisions on their own. How would they continue having the empowerment that they need? And also, maternal health will continue to be a problem. We have one of the second to the lowest maternal mortality in the world. We have access to health care. Many of the roads are impassable, so many women die due to lack of development. So all access to justice, again, is an issue. A lot of women suffer, like what we were saying, not only out of unequal application of the law, but also access to justice, their believability. Also, somebody slap you or your spouse slap a woman, she goes to the ministerial code, which is the code of first instance. The first question that is asked is, what did you do to the man? So all of these issues are what women face all of the time.
Right. And let's start to drill down each of those. Let's start with marriage.
Yes. So under our laws, like I said, women are second-class citizens. Liberia domestic relations law has over the years made steps to improve the content of the legislation through repeals and amendments. Like I said at first, the language of the 1956 Domestic Relations Code was borrowed from the U.S. jurisdiction as all of our laws. So it was later revised in 1972 and approved in 1973. And that's why we have on Labor League our Liberian Code of Laws revised. The amendments that were made to this 1956 law were not significant because the revised laws were either a verbatim quotation from the 1956 code or it was paraphrased to give identical meaning, which has not yielded any substantial result. So, and the revised revision did not address the issue of customary marriage, right, as it relates to the contract that falls in property, equal custody rights for both parents, domestic violence, illegitimacy, and inheritance. So the issue of amendments in subsequent years became necessary so that it will address those particular issues that are pertinent to women and the family and society at large. So women are still affected by the court's reluctance to rule on these particular issues, and the failure of the legislature to be cognizant or quick to act in amending and repealing and enacting laws that would eradicate this particular problem. So we were talking about the issue of the marriage, right?
Yeah, but before you go on, I mean, you were saying this law was 1956. It was revised in revised in 1972 and approved 1973. And even at that, it still has not addressed the issues that women face today. Why is that so?
It's because there are gaps within the law. For example, the domestic relations law puts the age of marriage for men at 21, for women at 16, while the Constitution regards people who are regarded as adults as 18 years. So that is the law that governs marriage, divorce, and basically family issues. So if you put in the age of marriage at 21 for men and 16 for women, that is that I need you to understand, what was going through the mind of the drafters of the law. However, one thing I will tell you is that some of these gaps and challenges have been addressed, like what domestic violence is, for example, and at first the child belonged to the man, which it still is, or unless you can prove unfavorable conditions. Inheritance Act has been improved. At first, customary women were inherited differently from statutory women under the law of marriage, but now it is all the same. Both parties can inherit equally under the law, whether you got married statutorily or customarily. You have equal rights under the law. The only issue with this is that when it comes to the separation of properties, where women are given 1/3 of their spouse's property, and you have 2, 3, 4 women under the customary law, how are they going to divide this 1/3 of the portion that has been given to them? So it's still not equal.
So Attorney, if you say the woman has 1/3, who has the rest of the property?
The children.
Okay.
The children.
Okay, and why are we separating the mother from the children?
Well, that's how the decedent estate law put it.
Okay.
There's a law for how estates is supposed to be divided, and so it gives 1/3 of the property to the man's property to the woman, and 2/3 to the children, except where there is this community property or both of them acquired it jointly, and then there's this right of survivorship when the spouse died, then the woman can inherit it. She doesn't need to do any other thing to inherit this property. or have letter of registration whatsoever. It just passed on to her because both of them owned it together while he was alive.
Yeah. So you can continue with the marriage if you have any other thing to say about the marriage.
Yeah, so like I was telling you, the marriage of both parties, like the statutory marriage and the customary marriage, traditionally has not been the same until 2003 when they became equal under the statute, under the customary marriage.
Yeah.
Women were.
Can you explain the difference between the customary marriage and the statutory marriage?
So the customary marriage is marriage by tradition in any of our tribes, marriage under our culture. So where you have a man, it is acceptable for a man to take more than one wife.
Right.
That is acceptable in our culture. Among the 16 tribes, a woman is considered a property. When her husband dies, she is inherited by one of the brothers or a closest relative until she marries. Then she would lose everything. Under that system, if you decide that you do not want the man, you have to return his dowry. But under the Inheritance Act, all of those were abolished. When you divorce a man, you don't have to return his dowry because that created a sort of enslavement for women. Some people were not able to pay back their dowry, and because of that, they were allowed to continue in servitude for many years. So now the law has abolished all of that, and even under the domestic violence law, we have something called dowry violence, and so women are not allowed to pay back dowry. So that is it. So the statutory law had a lot of opportunities for women married by the court, or women who are married by religious ceremony, or under the law, or what is provided by our laws.
And that's the disconnect. I always feel that we have something in Liberia called tradition, and we have something in Liberia called style. Why can't we marry the two?
All of them are equal under our laws.
Yeah, but why are they even separate? What is our culture? That's us. So why can't we marry both the customary and the statutory and make it into one? Why do we have them separate?
Yeah, harmonization of these laws have started to issue. Of course, we can marry the both. We can only make the rights equal. But now, a man can still marry as many women as he can. But these women, I think it's the issue of how much rights these women have under the law.
Yeah.
And it was important that these women have equal rights as the women under statutory marriage. So right now, they both have the same rights. They have the right to divorce. They don't need their husband permission to acquire property, and they don't need their husband permission to go to do anything like it was required under the culture. They have the same rights as women under statutory marriage.
So up to today, the age for women to get married is 16 years old in Liberia?
The rape law and other subsequent laws have said that if you have sex with a woman under the age of 18, that is statutory rape.
Right.
Our domestic relations law of 1973 has said the ladies should marry at 16. But I think that would now apply because the highest law of our land is the Constitution.
Correct.
The Constitution regards adults as 18 years. You know, the most recent laws that are passed are the ones that supersede the older laws. So now that the rape laws and all other, the Children's Act, the National Children's Act, and also the Children's Law have been passed, putting the age of marriage or any of those who are not considered children at 18, that law will not hold. But still, it is good to repeal those kind of
Right.
provisions. Because, for example, it said if you are less than 16 and you want to marry, you have to get the consent of your parents. If you are a child, you're just a child. And, there's so many ways in roads. We still have to travel to ensure gender equality by legal legal rights by the way of legality under our laws.
Thank you. Let's go to divorce.
Divorce. Okay. So, like I said, a woman, there are 4 ways that people can divorce in Liberia. Number 1, you can divorce if hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. Oh, we lost Mmonbeydo again. Let's see if we can get her back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing challenges we may face in our legal system in Liberia. My guest is Attorney Mmonbeydo Nadine Joah. She's joining us on the phone from Monrovia. And we lost her again, so we're trying to get her back. And while we wait for Nadine, let's see here. Musu Wanglo Stewart say everything in Liberia is subject to how someone feels and not due process. Helena Waloba, I'm learning a lot from this lady. Thank you that you are learning something. Musu again, traditional marriage has elements that are unfavorable for the woman. And statutory marriage gives the woman small liberty or independence in the marriage. So are we going to repeal them? Are we going to see which one to take out? But to have the 2 of them going side by side almost forever, that is maybe having some issue here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia. I'm getting the call again from...
I'm so sorry because the internet keep on coming on. It's not easy.
I know.
So we're talking about divorce.
Yes.
So like I was saying, there are different kinds of divorce in Liberia. First of all, the 2000 Equal Rights of Customary Marriage Act, the one we call the inheritance law. Like I was telling you about, that inheritance law says that customary and traditional marriages have the same legal rules as statutory and church marriages. So this means that the husband and wife in a customary marriage have the right to go to court and sue for divorce in the same ways. In customary marriages, the marriages are ended according to the customary rules and traditions, even though some customary marriages go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs for divorce. The husband cannot give his woman back without being sanctioned by state institutions like the Internal Affairs Ministry. For example, a traditional marriage can be terminated under the Liberian law if done before a traditional lawyer or leader or a paramount chief or before the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So right now, I see a lot of people going to the Ministry of Internal Affairs to have divorce proceeding and so on. But you can also do it before the paramount chief, just as you can do traditional marriage before the paramount chief. But I would like to inform you though that traditional marriage now has certificates, because it is a requirement to have certificate whenever you are traveling or going out of the countries, and these certificates can be requested for. So to divorce, you have to, it's a matter of record now. You have to go to the Ministry of Internal Affairs where those divorce proceedings are done. If you are not in town, you can do it before a paramount chief or the chief of your town. But however, like I said before, you cannot ask for the dowry to be returned because dowry is a gift. Because if you ask for it to be returned, it will be like, paying for the woman.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And that was not the intent for dowry. So, Attorney Joah, go ahead.
So, like I was telling you about the grounds for divorce, Liberia currently does not have a law on no fault divorce, where two people can decide in a friendly way that they don't want to be married anymore, so they can agree to go and divorce, even though it's commonly becoming a thing, or they cannot agree to say that I don't want to be together again, so let's go and divorce and divorce. The law says there must be a reason for divorce, and most of those cases have been going to the Supreme Court, especially like this case, Kokoya versus Kokoya, where Councillor Jerome Kokoya wanted to divorce his wife, and they said because the construction of the language was not used, that, the cruel and humane treatment, so that living together had become a matter of life and death. He didn't use that language, so the court could not divorce them. So cruel and inhumane treatment of the plaintiff by the defendant, where they're living together, becomes dangerous for the husband and wife, or for the mental health of the person who is suing, is a ground for divorce. Desertion, abandonment without a good reason is another reason for divorce. You got your wife in America or your husband in America, you jump up and came here so that your visa got expired. I'm just saying it to make it international and
right.
No case I'm working. So you came here and you made sure your visa expired so that you were not able to go back and that your green card will be renewed. Or you went to the States and left your husband here so that you're not able to come back. So, he is left alone. That constitutes desertion, and he can divorce you for that. So if you leave the man for at least 1 year, and the person who is suing the plaintiff can prove that he has tried to convince you and to no avail, the divorce will lie.
So the length is 1 year.
It's 1 year.
That's very short.
But that's significant time for a married couple. So we have adultery. So you have sex with someone who is not your spouse, and after they marry, and that's another reason for divorce. Of course, you can sue for injury to domestic relations. When that happens, when you have proof that this man has slept with your wife, right, and so you can sue the man for injury to domestic relations, and you can be put in jail for that.
And is that sex defined? What constitutes that sex?
Yeah, it's sex with someone who is adultery. Of course, it's sex with someone who is not your spouse.
Okay.
Yeah. So another one that is very common is incompatibility of temper, where the defendant is so quarrelsome and too much confusion, so that life together has become dangerous to the plaintiff. And in this case, it is important for the plaintiff to say when this behavior started, and the behavior must also be proved. So if you just have small misunderstanding, that's not incompatibility. But where it is how will I put it? Where it is something continuous, so that your mental health is completely challenged, deep that it can never be resolved, so that it is impossible for the marriage to continue, then the law will separate you as if you had not been married.
So, Attorney, what has been the experience of women going through the legal system with issues like this? It could be an issue of marriage, divorce, spousal custody, inheritance, etc. What has the experience been?
The law is one thing. Applying the law is another thing. In most cases in Liberia, I have not done a recent survey to know how many women are now applying for divorce in how many women to men are the ratio of women to men that are applying for divorce.
Right.
But the fact remains that for some time, most of the time, it was the men who was applying for divorce. And because of our tradition of our society, mostly puts the cause of divorce on women, most women will say they don't want to divorce, they don't want to divorce, and the men will have to prove, the proof will have to go. And, this contentious adversarial system that we have, makes it all the more a reason that afterwards it will make it hard for the couple even to live together so that the marriage will not survive. But it has been really tough for women to go through the system. For example, I'll tell you my own experience in advocating for this Domestic Violence Act, where I've been opportune to represent indigenous women under the law. I can tell you there is a reluctance by the courts, by both some judges, to implement this law. They look at it as a women law, and you could just come to support our women. And so application is one thing, awareness by judicial actors is another. And that's why I say I don't believe, of course, women access to information is important, and women must be able to be aware of the law. But as lawyers, we consider most of the citizens to be laymen. How are you going to tell that judge this law and this is how you should apply it? Yeah. So it is a lawyer who's going to do that. So I think much focus should be on judicial actors and how they apply the law. But it has not been easy for women to get justice under these various laws.
And are the women actually thirsty for justice, or are women themselves saying, you're trying to get them in trouble? Because let's say if you were telling them that, hey, this is what the law says, you're supposed to have X, Y, Z, and now I say, well, they are trying to, as you said, men are saying, oh, you're spoiling our women. Perhaps women, especially the older women, will say, we are now white people and you are trying to bring something different. This is not our tradition. What has been the level of pushback from women themselves?
Of course, women always want their voices to be heard. But this, as we always mention, this is a patriarchal society, and this affects, the patriarchy is a system that affects not only men, cannot only be propagated by a man, but also by a woman, because she lives under the system. This is what society has taught her to believe. Be quiet. Don't advocate for your rights. Just sit home because it is the woman who should keep the home. So women will have to exercise their rights to reach out more, so that they can exercise those rights that have been granted to them under the various amendments and reviews that have been done to our laws under the legal system.
And what is the level of awareness and education that people like you or your organizations doing to educate women about their rights?
Dennis, I tell you this, a lot of the organizations now, local organizations, are doing awareness of the Domestic Violence Act. In communities, in schools, in hospitals, they are doing, but there's still more to be done, because there are actors that are apportioned responsibilities under this law. For example, the school authorities social workers who are in the position to observe domestic abuse that cannot be reported because of the same societal system that we're talking about. We're talking about hospitals, workers, medical officers who are given responsibilities to report abuse.
Right.
For example, a child comes to you, you know that child is 15 years old or 13 years old, that child is pregnant. So you try to find out who impregnated that child because that's statutory rape. If a child came to you almost dying and you found out that that child was starved or was eaten because the mother thought he or she was a witch, it's your responsibility to bring it to the attention of the justice system. But then, like, the justice system does not only begin with the courts, it also starts with the police station. And there is another great challenge because half of our population lives below the dollar, and less than $1 a day. Like I saw a lady, breaking racks just to get $200 for she and her children to eat. And just that day, imagine if that woman child was raped and she went to the police station for justice. The police, in turn, will say, we don't have logistics. So to go and investigate the case or to go to the community to arrest the perpetrator, you have to superintend the process. And to even go, they will request $10. Where does that poor mother, have that money from? And so this is why we have been working in the communities or watch to put money in the police stations in which we work, give them small stipend and say, look, if somebody come here and report that they have been raped, we want you to use this money to go there as you would ask them for money and see whether you can investigate the case or arrest the perpetrator. And that's why we have developed an online documentation tool in which women themselves have been taking the community as local leaders. We gave the phone to the women and we gave it to the police station. So in there, if violence happens, the women are able to document. The information is sent back to us, and then we wait to see whether the police station in that area is going to document same and send it back to us, that same information. If it does that within 3 days, we go to the police and say, are you aware of this? And in most cases, in few cases, we have seen that cases that were about to be compromised have been attended to, have been addressed because these brave women in the community were able to document this issue and were able to follow up. This is how effective this accountability tool have been working. So women organizations have been very vigilant, but there's still more to be done under our laws and as such.
Yeah. So and you strike a very important point about these institutions like our churches, our schools, hospitals being actors, because if these people don't report, if the churches are saying, well, it's God's will, or it was the devil that so we have to declare a 3-day fast for this rape victim. If these things are not reported, what can be done to get institutions like our churches, schools, hospitals to report those kind of cases when they see them?
That's where awareness comes in. Okay, because in most cases, religious institutions should be encouraged to report not to report, but to encourage people not to commit domestic violence, because people usually listen to their pastors.
Right.
I don't want to say report because they in Liberia there are no psychiatrists, and these pastors on some level I serve as psychiatrists and others, but they have a duty to inform people about domestic violence and not put the responsibility on women. In most cases, it's a wife submit unto your own husband.
Right.
It's a dictate of the church, and some of these how they call it, some of these preachings are also ways of propagating violence against women, because it makes a husband to say, okay, they say you should submit. They say you should submit, and you are not the head of the home.
Yeah.
So it limits the woman's ability to make decisions in a house.
Right, but what I'm talking about mainly is and which is also wrong, because the Bible says men love your wives. So love should even cover, is even a more or demand than submission. But what I mean is, like, you gave the example of a child who goes to the hospital and you find out that she's 15 years or 14, she's pregnant. Okay. And there is no requirement for the hospital to report that in the US. That is, but I don't want to compare. But why can there be consequences? There should be consequences if they don't report that, right? Is that not the case?
Actually, there's no. It is a requirement for the medical officers. They have a duty, as well as school authorities, to report this. However, there's no sanctions under the Domestic Violence Act for those who do not report. So maybe that is one amendment going in the future can be looked at, that they must report, but there's no sanctions under the law for medical officers or school authorities to report violence.
I was doing my research before the show, and I saw a letter from former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to you, commending you for the work you are doing, and about women's rights and all the different things. I know you read that letter.
I did.
And then President Sirleaf was a president, and after reading that letter, was there anything in you that said, let people hear, man, you were there, what did you do?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I was very inspired, because Dennis, if you did the research, and you will know that when it comes to women's rights or the advocacy for women's rights in Liberia, I'm one of the persons on the forefront, and so there has been this shrinking civic space for those who exercise or advocate for others' rights in Liberia. And so at times, because of the marginalization that I and my colleagues face, sometimes there have been times that I've been so discouraged, and I would have liked to say, okay, I would like to be like some of my friends, be at the forefront of things with the gender ministry. Of course, it makes people to feel bad about you, that to invite you to certain events that you should have been, like the national conference that was here, the LGBT conference that was here. Certain of us were not invited, even though we were at the forefront of that. And yes, it was because we were not wanted there. So sometimes we feel that we have been marginalized in many ways, and also it has become dangerous for us. We have received notices that, look, it is becoming too dangerous. You need to have it quiet at some time. I remember at some point when we did the advocacy for Tilia Iris, that violence that she faced at some point, it wasn't easy on social media, and it was like I would go into the ground. So that letter really bored up my spirit, and it encouraged me as a young woman to do more, because I felt at that point that people were recognizing my work, and that a lot of young people or a lot of Indigenous women were depending on me. It did not matter the danger I faced. I should strive to do more according to what the president said.
So what you are saying is because of the role that you are playing in advocating for women, especially Indigenous women, for their rights, you are like the black sheep among those who are supposed to equally be protecting the rights of women, like in the case, the gender ministry.
Of course, this is a time when women rights defenders are marginalized most of the time. We are often told that we have often called a lot of words in some of our social media exchanges. We have been demonized to the Liberian public so that as to put our lives at risk at some point. But we have been doing what we can, and we will not stop because we passionately believe in what we do. And I would just like to read a portion of what the president says that really inspires me. It says, "It may seem like a time of pushback for women's rights, at a time when we need to make sure the rights of women are won over many generations are not diluted or destroyed. But it is also a time when our collective voice is strong. Do not feel weak or discouraged when oppositions come. Don't be afraid to dream boldly, to dream what seems impossible. I can tell you, Dennis, I have worked with my colleagues. It's not a single-handed effort.
Yeah.
A lot of women, strong women rights defenders are there, and they have been joining. We have been collectively fighting for this cause. Like you see in the photo, you see the overwhelming support that has emerged for this cause. So it's a collective effort. I will collaborate with my peers to ensure that women's rights are realized.
And to what extent or how do you draw the line so that people don't see your effort as being political? For example, the issue of Boto Kane, Madam Edith Gonglo, Talia Ure, all these are opposition women, they will say. So to what extent, how do you walk this kind of fine line so that you don't be seen as opposition to people in government?
Dennis, that's a very beautiful point. But the purpose is to remain consistent. Over the years, we have been advocating for women. It hasn't been because, this other woman is, from the ruling party, or she's. I can tell you that during the last senatorial elections, there were times that the female Senate, the second to the last before this one, the female CDC candidate was severely bullied for her looks. And we came out and we made a statement concerning that. So if they are watching and they are looking towards our pattern of advocacy, they will know that there is a consistency there. And we have always fought whether you are a CDC candidate or a UP candidate or an ANC candidate, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you must participate because it is the right of everyone in a democracy to participate in a democratic process.
Thank you. Let's read few of our comments. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Focus on Liberia. Our guest, Attorney Mmonbeydo Nadine Joah, is on the phone joining us from Liberia. In case you don't know, Mmonbeydo means I'm one of you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm one of you. That's the beautiful Bassa language, Mmonbeydo. And I love that name. And Focus on Liberia, we enjoy anytime we have an opportunity to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Let's read a few of our comments here. Helena Walowa say, I'm learning a lot. So thank you so much, Attorney Joah, for coming. Musu say, traditional marriage has elements that are unfavorable for women. It gives the woman, or the statutory marriage gives the woman more liberty or independence in the marriage. Mianta Heron, now when you were having a technical issue, Mianta say Moravia is full of etanas, yet poor reception. Judge Toto is asking, are there any laws in Liberia regarding sex marriage? Judge Toto, what does that sex marriage? I'm not sure. Maybe the attorney can help. Mianta's telling, this is an excellent information that must be available to the entire nation. Imagine the masses of the nationals who are not privy to this platform. Please do a radio forum for the people. Those are a few comments. If you can give your response before we move forward.
Definitely, we should always, talk about this, talk about the laws and how they apply to women. how they not only the laws that apply to women, but people constitutional rights. There was a time that people did civics, and some schools are doing it now still, but there's not a requirement for people to do civics. I think people should know the Constitution. A lot of people don't have the Constitution. We should be able to know our laws, because access to information is a precursor to all other rights that we may have under our Constitution. So I agree, we should try to disseminate the laws. We should try to know it. We should try to, only if you know your law, the laws is when you can say, I have rights.
Right. And talking about having this on the radio, Focus on Liberia is making efforts so our broadcast will be heard over the radio in Monrovia, but this requires money. We are asking you to help so that we pay the guys in Monrovia to relay this and other programs all over their radio station so that all of us can help. I believe if Attorney Mmonbeydo is trying to do the same in Monrovia, money will be required. So let us all help to make this happen.
Definitely. This is a very good program, and I think that people should always give to causes they believe in. Dennis, I tell you, I'm not that rich, but if I believe that this issue of getting from people all the time is wrong, and that we should try to cultivate the idea that if we believe fervently in something, we should be able to give to that cause.
Yeah.
We're talking about divorce, and I would just like to tell you some of the grounds on which divorce can be barred.
Okay.
Which is so important. So, certain time can come and one of the parties, after something has that, for example, the man has slept outside over some time, or he has committed a person behavior over time, and you haven't done anything about it. Maybe someone, so you say, okay, just leave it. And maybe the adultery has continued over time. And after some time, after more than 5 years, you can bring that case and say, okay, the man deserted me, or the man abandoned me, or he committed adultery. Is a ground, and you have a time limit.
Right.
And one of the other grounds that the man can say is connivance, that you consented with one party to the actions of the other party is a ground for that. It's a ground to bar the divorce. It can happen, but that also cannot apply in a domestic violence. And you can say the woman say I'm a people. In fact, said that what you can do. If I'm pure, she will not be certified. They will not hold. They will hold you for that. Domestic violence or condemnation. You forgive the person, and then you revoke it. Then later on, you bring it and say, this man did this particular thing. It will not lie. You will not get that post when you do that. Or recrimination.
But in that case, before you continue, how can we prove the forgiveness that okay, he forgave me 1 month ago, so why is she bringing it back? How can we prove that you were forgiven? Is there something signed for forgiveness?
Yes, that you choose after the thing happened, you continue to live with a man as husband and wife, and even after that, both of you continue as if to say nothing happened. You appeared in public, your pictures are shown everywhere on Facebook. Both of you acting happily together, then you say you forgive the man. If I said it was terrible between both of you, that cannot lie.
Right. I don't agree with that, except the statute of limitation is being crossed. But to say, well, you guys were buddy, so it means you didn't forgive. I disagree with that. But let's move on.
Yeah, but that's the law.
Yeah.
Or, for example, the man cheated on the woman and she knew about it.
Right.
They proved it that she knew about it. But then afterwards, both of them signed to live together.
Right, because you continue to make it work and it's not happening, even though he has not done it, but the issue is still there. And I don't think seeing us on Facebook or putting on any pretense outside there should be grounds for that to be revoked. But that's the law. What can we say?
Yeah, but you say you and the man will continue living together without issue. Just say for 3 more years, then you go bring case. He said, ever since 3 years ago, they made cheated on me. In the case, the court would not allow that.
Right, for recrimination. Okay, go ahead.
Another ground is recrimination, where the spouse that committed the act, that will be grounds for divorce. Say both parties acted in ways that, justify the divorce under the law. So no party is guilty than the other party. For example, the husband will be on the wife and the wife committed adultery. And the husband forgave the wife for adultery, then the wife sue for divorce. And for accusing the husband of beating on her, he cannot then use the adultery as a defense against the divorce because he already, forgave her for that. Almost like the same thing.
Okay, what's about the one you say, okay, you finish paying your debt?
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to bring this up because it's very prevalent in our society now, and I don't know if there's any laws against that or how people dealing with it in Liberia. This putting of nude pictures on the internet or engaging in some maybe consent video sex, and after that you use that against the woman because the both of you are no longer. Are women suing for that in Liberia?
Oh yes. There was this very popular case that was brought to the Liberia court. But that time the Domestic Violence Act had not passed, so I didn't follow any of that case, so I can't speak to it. But yes, it has become an issue, and women are taking up issues with it. If the person did not give their consent to share their pictures, you cannot share it. And even at that, distribution of nude photos is forbidden under our laws. You can just go around sharing and pornographic and videos around. So
has anyone gone to jail for that in Liberia that you know of?
I'm not aware of it, but it doesn't mean that it has not happened. There are so many courts in Liberia and so many cases of that, but I've not heard of somebody going to court because going to jail because of that. But that would be an issue to look at because it's becoming rampant, and many girls have been exposed. But most of the time, it's hard to also find a perpetrator. Like the recent one that happened, the lady could not identify the guy because he used a fake account, to do this. So it's difficult when it's digital.
Right. Normally we hear the word the laws are on the books. The laws are on the books. Are the laws really on the books, especially regarding these things that we are talking about today?
Of course, it's like this one I'm talking about. It's the domestic violence. The domestic relations law. The issue of cyber violence, or not cyber violence, but emotional violence. Anything that causes it's called emotional abuse. And this was one of the things that this domestic violence act sought to cure. It's definitely in our books. The one of the Inheritance Act making women and men equal, both statutory marriage and customary marriage equal under the law is contained in the Inheritance Act, the right of equal marriage under the law.
Thank you.
So, yes, it is in the law.
We have our phone line set, so we want our... please call in. We have a few more minutes to end this. We have like 10 minutes to be out. That if you are here, you want to call quickly, we give you 60 seconds. Please join the discussion. Our number is on the screen. You can call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403. Let's do this quickly. And let me put a few comments on the board again. Musu Stewart said there shouldn't be any statute of limitation on divorce. What do you think?
Okay. Well, you can, people who don't want to be together, you can force them to be together, but that is the law, and unless it is challenged and there's a Supreme Court opinion on that, the law is the law. And under the Supreme Court can who is the final arbiter of all issues, the court of last resort can rule on that. Or that is what the law says.
Yeah. Many women rights defenders in Liberia are left out of key national programs that affect women. Complete division sad indeed. That's let me see from our back room. Do we have any caller? Mianta Heron say, what kind of law is that? Because it's not equal to two. Therefore, because one was forgiven for past incidents and was forgiven at the time does not mean it should not be brought up again. One can forgive at a time things were good, yet you continue. So Musu is asking, who wrote that kind of law?
The framers of the Constitution. So let's say your case went to court and they at the level of the circuit court, the civil law court denied divorce based on that particular clause. Of course, you can appeal your decision to the Supreme Court and give reasons why you think that law is discriminatory against women. But up to now, no one has challenged that, so it still remains the law.
Is that because the society we live in where people just believe, hey, this is a man's world?
Oh, well, it doesn't apply to only the men. That particular clause applies to both men and women.
Musu Stewart say, bottom line is to empower Liberian women sufficiently, not only about their rights, but teach them how to economically and financially strengthen themselves so that they are a force to contend with in a society where they are constantly undermined.
I can tell you this, Dennis. I had cases in which we supported the arrest of the perpetrator, which was done by the police. And there's this woman who just continuously went to the police to say, oh, free my husband because he was the breadwinner in the house.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure that if women are not economically empowered, they will always abuse their rights. They will always want to stay in that abusive home, or they will always be subjected to abuse. So yes, economic empowerment is one of the key to ending violence against women. I tell you this, most of the women that are affected by divorce in our Peace Island community, where we implement one of our projects, we open the Village Saving and Loan Association. And those women, they save a lot of money so that they were able to now stand on their own to open their own market. And this is the second year they have now opened again and started saving their monies. So yes, we must empower women economically and not just giving them our money, but we should also help them with the requisite information or knowledge in how to sustain those businesses that they have engaged themselves into.
And in all this, what should government's role be? Because civil societies and individuals like Atty. Mmonbeydo alone can do this.
No, government is the duty bearers, and that's why we as right holders can only hold them accountable. Like the advocacy that we did in back for We Are Unprotected, we gave them, we said, look, you have to do something about this issue that more than 12 girls were raped during the Ebola crisis. That's what, started the We Are Unprotected movement. You haven't done anything about it. And because of the uproar that arrived that is issued from the We Are Unprotected movement, that's how they constituted that committee to look into it. The issue with the 15 kids, they had a responsibility to keep the peace. So government are the duty bearers. We only work with them, or in cases where they don't do their job, we feel that the rights of women are being severely compromised to a certain level. It's our duty to hold them accountable and make implemented as it is, and to prevent gross abuse of rights by state actors or duty bearers.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Atty. Mmonbeydo Joah. We appreciate your time so much. I hope we can do this again and again. our audience are enjoying the program. They like it. They like what you are saying. And this we have just scratched the surface of the issues, the challenges women face in our justice system. Let's get your closing comments, and we're going to be closing this broadcast for now.
Well, the issue of the rights of women, it would take many years before this issue can be cured. But we all have a responsibility in our society to educate people, to tell them of their rights, to help them when abuse is being committed. It may be one person today, or it may be the next person today. I mean, another person. So it's not only organization for women and children. We have different organizations, working on different thematic areas to address abuse of women's rights, and some on education, some young women to make it. But what remains sure is that we will always approach our duty bearers in a way that says, look, this issue of custody being only a man's responsibility, where a child is deprived of his mother's love, is wrong. It should be both parents who have custody under the law. This issue of women only having 1/3 of the property under customary laws, whereby even if it is small, all the wives have to divide that 1/3. It's an equal law that is being applied. The one Musu was talking about, we have to study all of these laws and challenge the laws in the courts. Somebody came to me the last time for economic abuse, right? The father is not supporting the child.
Right.
And she said that my 27-year-old daughter is too small to go to court, so let's see. Back on, it will not remove the hurt if we say let back on be back on. It is the law that will cure this problem. So let us all go to court and let the court say, this person is wrong or that person is wrong. Or let us mediate. If we shouldn't let back on be back on, because our child will still be the father's, he will still go to his father. So let him do his responsibility. Let us challenge the law in full. And that's my final parting words.
And in closing, do you have faith in our justice system?
If we have what?
If you have faith in our legal system.
I do have faith in our justice system. Because of the appeal process. You don't have to stay down there if someone rude, the way you think is not right. For example, Boto now is appealing to the Supreme Court because she feels that the decision of the NEC is not right. You can always appeal your decisions to the Supreme Court. And at the level of the Supreme Court, where those 5 justices feel that they need additional opinion, it takes 16 lawyers to serve as amici curiae, friends of the court, where they listen to the cases or review the files and say, this is how I think it should be, and they look at those opinions and then see the different laws that is being proffered by both the plaintiff and the appellant and the appellee's lawyers, and then make a decision based on the law, on how they see the law.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And to all our viewers, we say thank you for spending your Saturday with us. Right on top of the hour at 3, we're coming up with another show about internet access in Monrovia. Please continue to follow us here at Focus on Liberia. We consider ourselves the best in the business, and so keep your dial set. Until then, from me to you, my name is Dennis Jazz saying thank you and God bless you.
We are Liberian.